Will the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, November 7th, 2022, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a hybrid planning and zoning meeting hosted in, well, not in person. It is all Zoom meeting.
Virtual.
During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. When you first enter the Zoom meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so you can be seen by others when and if you choose. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything that is said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, the secretary will read the call of the meeting as is published according to the Governor Lamont's executive order. 4, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explain to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 5, comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. 6, there will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand to the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. 7, after clarifying questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support of the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. Then those who wish to speak in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. 8, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 9, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 10, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 11, all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated tonight, this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
I don't see Ted. Phil Johnson.
Welcome.
Frank Giandria.
Hi.
And I'm Scott Edmond. Also, we have Larry Rizzolo.
Here.
Larry, you will be seated tonight. Staff present are Jamie Stein, town planner. I have to update my sheet. Nigel Wells, correct? Nigel Mills, assistant town planner. This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing. The secretary will now read the legal notice. Let's have Frank read the legal notice, please.
Could you mind or Jamie put that up for me? My phone was hijacked.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Thank you. Legal notice from the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on November 2nd, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. via the Zoom platform by using the following link. There's the URL. The following applications will be heard. William and Michelle Gilson, 2 Hart Landing, map 106, lot 18-3, zone R8, special permit application for an accessory dwelling unit. Charles Kermay, 316 Little Meadow Road, map 86, lot 2, zone R5, special permit application for earth removal operation, section 273-66 of the Guilford zoning regulations. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website, guilfordct.gov. At this hearing, persons may attend via web connection and shall be heard. All written correspondence shall be submitted to the planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office. Dial 203-453-8032 for assistance. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 11th day of October 2022. Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Would I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second, I'll give it to Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we got Ted Sands. Welcome, Ted Sands.
Aye.
All right, first item on our agenda is William and Michelle Gibson, 2 Hart Landing, map 106, lot 18-3, zone R8, special permit application for an accessory dwelling unit. Do we have anyone to represent the Gilsons?
That would be me.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
I'm Michelle Gilson.
Please state your name and address to the record and then present us with your application.
It's Michelle Gilson and it's 2 Hart Landing, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437.
Great.
And my application is for an accessory apartment to put on my property for an apartment for my mom as an in-law apartment.
Do we have drawings to put up?
Yes, we do. I'm happy to share them, Michelle, and you can just walk me through them. I'll bring up the survey or site plan first.
Thank you.
Are you all seeing the survey? Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
So basically, Michelle, do you want to just explain for us what the commission is looking at?
Oh, sure. Sorry. This is
That's all
my
right.
first time. I'm sorry. So right here is this is a shared driveway.
Okay.
My home is right here. And right across from here, you see the gravel driveway on the bottom, and that leads to this modular building that I'm planning to put in as the accessory apartment. It's a little under 500 square feet. And it's directly right across this shared driveway, which we own this portion of, and it's right across from my house.
What is the plan for, is there, I assume there's functioning facilities. I want to know what's the plan for septic?
I've already gone through the septic process with
Okay.
Shirley, and my house had a large enough septic system to carry this. And we've already gotten the approval from the state.
Is there another?
There's
two
another
on-
drawing with the septic system shown on it, I think, isn't there?
I believe, yes, there is.
Is there another house at the end of this road? Like, are there other cars that are driving through on this road?
Yes,
But that is your lot that it's on, correct?
correct. So the driveway is on my lot.
Okay. If there's no other immediate questions, we have some memos here, or did I hear a question?
No, not yet.
All right, let's see, let's grab memos. Hold on 1 second. Oh, those are all Little Meadow memos.
Scott, we do have one from.
Memos, yeah, do you have one you could put up, Jamie?
Yeah, I can. Just 1 second.
Mr. Phil Johnson, would you please read the memo for us?
As soon as it pops up.
Yep, 1 second.
To Planning and Zoning Committee, Shirley Meckins, RS, October 28th. 2 Hart Landing, map 106, lot 1803, 1-bedroom accessory apartment. The Health Department has approved a 1-bedroom accessory apartment at the above address. Essential system exception has been granted by the Department of Public Health to tie in the waste from the accessory structure to the existing system. An engineered plan dated 9/21/22 was approved by the Health Department, demonstrating a code complying area on the lot for a 6-foot 6-bedroom home and a 1-bedroom accessory apartment. Scroll, please.
Sure, I think that's it.
Shirley Minkins, RS, sorry.
Thank you. Jamie, was there more drawings showing, is this a tiny house effectively? Is that what the look?
Yeah, it's about 477 square feet, I think, Michelle.
Yeah,
And
is
it's
it
a
on a-
modular structure. We do have
Is it-
some,
Is it gonna be on foundation or is it on,
on foundation.
okay,
Going to be a shared well as well?
Yes.
How
So
is
the
it-
water line is drawn on one of the drawings, so the water line would be connected from my house to the structure across the driveway.
How's just?
See if I can find that.
Not that it's relative to our, how is it heated?
The heating system will be separate. It's the heating system that would be placed onto the wall.
Heat pump.
heat pump, yeah, or
And it
mini-
will also have its own water heater as well.
No, that's the old one.
I think this is the old plan. Is this the one that shows the septic, Michelle, or is there a,
No,
No,
that-
there should be another that's the first plan that I had to change that had the 10 feet.
right, yes, okay, thank you.
So there should be another, they did attach a new septic plan with the site plan that we updated yesterday.
Okay, I think these are the house. So it must be in the revised folder.
I
Yeah,
think
maybe
it's the
this
second one.
The
The
second,
Septic.
second one? Oh, septic plan, thank you. There we go.
Yeah.
Zoom in a little bit.
It's a very good sized septic system.
okay,
That's showing the water line here.
So
Sure.
basically it looks like you rotated the orientation of the building in order to accommodate for the setback?
yes, I originally, there was a miscommunication maybe on the size of what the structure was gonna be. And I was told it was supposed to be 10 feet from the exterior line, so that's why my first design was with the 10 feet. But I read the memo yesterday and called and got it taken care of so that it was at the 20 feet when we had the meeting today.
Thank you, sorry, just asking.
let's see, yeah, so it goes to tank and then gets pumped. Great, any other questions from commissioners?
So it looks, is the septic to the left?
Yes, well, it's left is a tank that then it would get pumped to the,
The leaching fields?
Yeah.
Got it.
I think it's all gravity. No, I don't think there's any pump.
right,
Sorry, yeah, no, I just misspoke. Well, I think this is exactly why we have kind of liberalized our accessory apartment dwelling units regulations. I mean, to allow for just this type of thing.
yeah.
Is there any drawings of it? I mean, not that it's critical to the process, but I was just curious.
It's not a
Yep,
trailer, right?
we have a whole slew of them.
Ah.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we should look at it because it's part of a special permit.
Plans.
Oh, I didn't scroll down. I was like, oh, I'm not
There
gonna
you
read
go.
that.
Mhm.
Oh, I like that.
My mom's only 4 feet tall, so it's perfect. for her.
Ah. Sure, she's happy you just let us know that too.
How old is your mother?
She'll be 64.
Spring
Young.
chick.
Young.
She'll be with you forever.
She's been living with me almost 8 years now, so
Ah,
we're ready, but she's a big
Oh,
help.
you're
big
getting her
help.
out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has to leave the bedroom, walk through the kitchen area and around the corner to get to the bathroom at night?
Yes.
Well, that's because you need it as a guest bath, I guess, as well.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it would be the other way around.
Why would, just a silly question, why wouldn't you put the bathroom closer to the bedroom and the closet on the other side? But not that it makes any difference at all for us. Just throwing it out.
I actually just
It's
don't
pretty
like the
small. You can walk pretty quick.
It's actually as big as a room that I have in my house, so it is pretty small. I did go with the design that I was presented with. I made a couple modifications, but as far as the layout went, I kept the layout the same.
Yeah, it looks great.
Any other questions from commissioners? Thank you, Jamie, for sharing. All right, so we'll throw to any questions from the public. Questions first. Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this? application? And is there anyone that would want to speak in opposition to this application? Not seeing any. I throw it to commissioners. How do we feel about the option that we have to waive a second public hearing on this special permit?
Make a motion to
Waive
waive
it.
the second public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Phil, second from Frank. Discussion? Okay.
Looks
do roll-
straightforward.
Do roll call vote. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes, sir.
Larry Rizzolo,
Yes,
Ted Sands,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Any other things we want to discuss, or do we want to close the public hearing on this item?
Make a motion to close.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Frank. Discussion. All right, Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Larry Rizzolo,
yes.
and I will vote yes. Thank you. We'll make a motion on this tonight. Thanks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next item that we have on the agenda is Charles Kermay, 316 Little Meadow Road, map 86, lot 2, zone R5, special permit application for earth removal operation, section 273-66 of the Guilford zoning regulations. Is there anyone here to represent Charles Kermay?
Yes, Jeffrey Beatty for the applicant, Mr. Kermay. Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Hello.
I'm here with Mr. Kermay and Todd Anderson, who'll be presenting to the commission with regard to this application. So this is the Mr. Kermay's residence at 316 Little Meadow Road. And he's bought the property in the fall, September of 2020. And since purchasing it, he's been planting trees. He's planted between a third and a half acre of fruit trees on the property. And as he was growing them, he was, drawing water from his well to help them grow, and noticed that it was having an impact on the amount of water that he was able to use for normal household living. So his property is located in there's a wetlands on his property. Since the use of the property for agricultural purposes is permitted as of right, we went to the Inland Wetlands Commission in July to request their sign off on excavating the property within the wetlands to create a pond to generate sufficient water to serve not only the trees that Mr. Kermay had already planted, but the trees that he intends to plant on the property. His goal is to have about 2 acres of fruit trees on the property, generating crops and selling them to.
Okay. Sorry.
That's
Thank you.
okay. To the public. And so we got that approval in July, as I said, And the Inland Wetlands Commission made a finding that he's allowed to create the pond as of right. And so now we're here with a special permit application because it's an earth removal operation to excavate the portion of his property where the pond is going to be installed. And so to give you more detail as to that aspect of the project, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Anderson to walk you through the specifics with regard to the location, creation, and maintenance of the pond.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road here in Guilford. My client is proposing to build about a 1/3 acre pond on his property entirely within the wetlands. In creating this pond, it will be excavated by machine excavation, of course. The material will be brought uphill onto the upland portion of the property, put into a staging area for dewatering, and then removed from the property. And on our plans, we show the soil erosion controls. We show the construction entrance into the property from Prospect Hill Road, in letters from Kevin McGee and Janice Plasiak. Specifically Janice, you will see a proposal to have that access off of Little Meadow Road. That is not feasible for access to the dewatering area, as there is a steep slope up to Little Meadow Road to get there. And I feel that is going to cause more harm than good to the property and surrounding areas. The area that we chose for that construction entrance, and also in the letters will be mentions of street trees and so forth. That construction entrance happens between a couple large trees, one on the town property and two on Mr. Kermay's property. No tree removal will happen within the town's property. There are 2 small trees that need to be removed to construct that construction entrance. Also in the letters, you will see questions about sight lines from that construction entrance, which we also thought of in the design. You can see clearly to the intersection of Little Meadow Road, and you can see clearly all the way down to the west beyond the property line on Prospect Hill Road. There's tons of sight line there. There are a couple trees that obstruct portions of the sight line, but in calculating sight lines, single trees are not counted. Large brush masses are counted, but single trees are not. So we do have sufficient sight line. So this occurs in the most level part of the property. That dewatering area that we propose is the most level part of the property, upland of the wetlands. As part of our wetlands approval, we cannot fill wetlands. So another thing in the letters that will get read to you, there are statements of proposed grading on the property. We cannot fill in any of the wetlands. So what you see for the limits of the pond, those existing contours, albeit uphill on the barn side, those contours will actually be about a foot, 1.5 foot cut. But on the western side of the pond, we do not propose to fill any of the wetlands because we cannot under our wetlands permit as of right. We have to maintain the existing contours. So yes, the pond is going to be flat. So on the eastern side, yes, there will be a bank, but that is incorporated into the banking of the pond. Another thing that you will hear in one of the letters is what is the sloping of the pond and so forth. We Jamie, if you can go up to the upper right to the cross section of the pond for me, please. Go to the right as you look at it on the screen. There's a cross section further up to the right. There you go. So whenever we design a pond, we always design it for the first 6 feet in depth to have a slope of 4 to 1, which means you have a 4-foot horizontal distance with 1 foot of drop. So it's a very shallow grade. And the reason why we do that is for safety concerns. Mr. Kermay is planning on putting deer fencing around the property, around the pond, to keep deers and hopefully other animals out of his orchard, which will give some protection to the pond. But we always think of safety. So in designing this, we always design ponds as if someone were to accidentally slip into the pond, they can crawl out on the shallow grade and get to safety. And the reason why we go 6 feet deep is because by the time you're 6 feet deep, you're swimming. And then from that 6 foot deep depth down, we do a 2 to 1 grade down to the bottom of the pond. Because then it will stabilize that slope, create kind of keep the slope from caving in on itself. And then we go down to the bottom of the pond. The reason why we have the pond at a 12-foot depth is because, and that's another thing that you will read in the letter from Mr. McGee about the stagnant water. We have it at a 12-foot depth because at 12 feet, the temperature difference from the bottom of the water to the top of the water has such a temperature difference that the water has a turbulence that is naturally created by that temperature difference. So it, in a sense, it is a natural occurring transference of water up and down that doesn't create a stagnant pond. If during the summer months he finds that that is not enough, then maybe he might have to put in a bubbler or a sprinkler or something. But that is always on a case-by-case basis with every pond we do. More times than not, that will not be necessary, but he may find it will be necessary, but that is up to him to decide later on. Another thing that you will read is about what the proposed pump is. And I had conversations with my client today, and he has already talked with the irrigation specialists that have done the irrigation on his existing orchard, and they are going to be installing a submersible pump that will be down in the pond, which will create no noise. So there were comments about, what is the pump going to be? Is it going to have noise levels and whatnot? But that submersible pump will be silent. I do show a proposed pump location because in applications in the past for ponds we have proposed, we have had either buried pumps in like a utility pit or in a small little structure, we have had pumps. By the utilization of a submersible pump, we won't have a structure, we won't have an external pump, it will be in the pond. So you probably won't even see it. The other thing, I just got these letters an hour ago, so bear with me here. I'm trying to cover all the bases before they come up, but I can't remember what else I wanted to say on the comments from the town staff. So maybe I'll wait until the letters are read and then I can reply further.
Yeah,
Oh,
one comment.
one more thing that Kevin said was that the Wetlands Commission approval only had tree removal for the pond. We were approved as of right, that whole area to the south of the pond towards Prospect Hill where it says proposed nursery area. And there is a second soil erosion control line to the west there. That whole area there, we were approved as of right to remove all of those trees. So I don't want his letter to be construed as we are only removing the trees for the pond. We are removing the trees in that proposed nursery area as well. And that is all as of right.
Right. Thank you. We should bring up some memos from town staff. This first one, let's have Mr. Freeman, if you wouldn't mind, reading the notes from Kevin McGee. I could share it.
Cool.
November, ready?
Yep.
November 2nd, 2022, to the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, Environmental Planner. RE Special Permit Earth Removal Operations. Charles Cremay, 316 Little Meadow Road, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437, Assessor Map 86, Lot 2. The applicant is applying for a special permit for earth removal operations in connection with the creation of a farm pond on the property. The plan shows creation of a 0.3 acre farm pond to be constructed within the wetlands to supply irrigation water to a nursery. Plans for the project do not have sedimentation control procedures that are do not have sedimentation and erosion control procedures that are in compliance with 273-97B subsection 6 of the zoning regulation. As part of the excavation of the pond, groundwater within the pond will need to be dewatered. No erosion control measures and construction details are shown on the plan concerning the groundwater dewatering methods. The erosion control plan should provide details for dust control and for sweeping any soil off the road for trucks leaving the site. To prevent soil from tracking onto the road, tracking pad should be increased to a minimum of 50 feet. Plans also do not provide proposed elevations for the creation of the pond as required by section 273-98 of the zoning regulations. The Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission at its July 13, 2022 meeting approved a permitted use as a right agricultural activities for the installation of an irrigation pond and nursery to be planted without fill material within the wetlands based on the findings that the proposed 0.3 acre pond is permitted use as of right in accordance with the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Regulations, section 271-10A, grazing, farming, nurseries, gardening, and harvesting of crops and farm ponds on 3 acres or less, essential for farming activity. The proposed pond has been determined by the Inland Wetlands Commission to be essential for irrigation of the nursery. The removal of trees is limited only to those trees required for the construction of the pond. A permanent depositing of dredge material or material lasting longer than 30 days from, the completion of the excavation of the pond within the upland regulation and upland regulated review area is a regulated activity and requires a permit from the Inland Wetlands Commission. Prior to Planning and Zoning Commission approval, plans need to be updated to provide the following. Site plans need to be updated to show erosion control measures for the pond dewatering, dust control, road sweeping methods in compliance with the Connecticut DEP erosion control manual. Site plans need to be updated to show proposed grading elevations of the pond. In order to make sure the natural resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. The town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work and dewatering activities. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and or hay bales. Soil erosion or sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. All dredge materials shall be removed from the property within 30 days from the completion of the excavation of the pond.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Anderson, just a quick question. It sounded like from your testimony that you were planning on doing most of these things. It just hasn't necessarily got onto your plans yet. Is that correct?
No, I missed a few points that I would like to discuss now. As far as dewatering that Mr. McGee spoke of, when you dig a pond, there is no dewatering involved. It's not like you're digging a small trench and pumping water out of it to make it dry, to make a trench. In the excavation of a pond this size, you expect to have wet dirt coming out, which is why we have a drying location for the stockpiles. So the soil will be excavated out of the pond, put into a vehicle, brought up to that drying location, stockpiled there to dry, and then put in other trucks to move off of site. So there won't be any pumps pumping water out of that pond. So the dewatering that he speaks of will not happen. As to the comments about dust, that is a course of normal operation on any site, that if you get to the point where a site dries out, you have to have dust control. That we never address that on any of our plans. It's part of normal course, and it's in the town regulations that if it gets to that point, you have to control the dust. The other part about the tracking pad is on our plan, we show a 25-foot minimum for the tracking pad. It's always on a case-by-case basis on, we're hoping to do this in the dry season. Of course, now with approvals possibly being pushed off and availability of construction equipment, I am hoping that this does not happen in the spring, because if it can happen in the next month or two, then it will be in the dry season, and all the better, because the groundwater will be at about maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep in the ground, and the upland portion will not be a mud pit. But if this happens during a wetter time of year, then of course we have to increase the tracking pad and construction entrance, and have more controls on that. But that is also in the purview of inspections by the town, and they can suggest more. And in my monitoring of it, if I find that a larger tracking pad is sufficient or required, we can add more onto it. To go in right off the bat and say do a 50-foot tracking pad, more times than not, pretty much 95% of the time, that is not required of any site. And you'd be hard pressed to find many construction sites in town that even utilize a 25-foot tracking pad. Take a drive up Long Hill Road and see what their tracking pad looks like, and you'd be surprised. But anyways, in my monitoring of this, I will be suggesting whatever it takes to not have a mess on Prospect Hill. And as far as I'm not sure whether it was him or Janice said something about sweeping of the road. Of course, if it gets to the point where there is soil being tracked out onto the road, yes, they would need to clean it up. But to have a sweeping schedule in place, I don't think that's been imposed on any project in town that I know of. And just while I'm talking, I read through Janice's letter while you guys were reading Kevin's letter. And I want to touch on a couple of things that she said about that access being a permanent driveway. It is not intended for this entrance to be permanent. The stone wall in that area will be moved to the side, preserved, the construction entrance be put in, and then at the termination of that project, the tracking pad be pulled out, soil be put back in place, seeded, and the stone wall be put back in place. If at any time Mr. Kermay chooses to have another entrance into his orchard, which I don't think he's intending to do at this moment, of course, we would have to go to the engineering department and do the permit for an entrance, as is the case with anybody that wants to put a driveway in. But I believe at this point, his intention is not to have a permanent driveway there. So those are a couple of things that I want to just touch on there.
Okay. We have another memo here from Sonia Marino, Mr. Ted Sands. Let's have you read this one.
Sure, if you can pull it up. Okay, this is to Planning and Zoning Commission from Sonia Marino, RSMPH, November 2nd, 2022. 316 Little Meadow Road, map 86, lot 2. The proposed pond on the above referenced property has an adequate separation distance to the subsurface sewage disposal system. Staking out the septic system to protect it from being driven over during construction is recommended.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, do you have any problem with staking that recommendation?
As long as I have an as-built of the septic system, but I believe Mr. Kermay knows where his septic system is, and I believe we are nowhere near it. So no, I have no problem with that.
All right, and then the last memo here, we'll have Kevin Clark, please.
Okay, to Planning and Zoning Commission from Janice Plesiak, Town Engineer. I have reviewed the special permit application for the above referenced property. The project proposed an irrigation pond to be built on the property for fruit tree cultivation. The pond final water or top of bank elevation should be shown along with proposed grading around the pond since the site is slightly sloped. The proposed pond will require 2,900 cubic yards of material to be removed from the site. The average triaxle truck can haul about 22 cubic yards of material, so this will result in approximately 130 truckloads of material to leave the site onto Prospect Hill Road. Prospect Hill Road is a very narrow town road, only about 17 feet wide. The application says that the yield of this size pond will be approximately 3 times what is needed for the agricultural use. Perhaps a smaller pond with less material leaving the site is an option to consider. The proposed site plan only shows a 10-foot wide proposed construction entrance built only 25 feet in length. I would suggest the construction driveway be made wider to at least 15 feet to accommodate large trucks turning onto a narrow road, and the construction entrance be extended at least another 10 feet in length. Also, if they will need this access in the future, they may want to make this a permanent driveway with a paved apron. Either way, they will need to take out a permit from the engineering department to build this access. If the access is only temporary, the stone wall should be reestablished when the project is completed. Any tree removals in the town right of way will require posting by the tree warden. The steepness of Prospect Hill Road is also a concern to the west of the site. The road has approximately a 10% down gradient approaching Route 77 from the site and a 5% up gradient approaching Little Meadow Road. Travel via Little Meadow Road may be the preferred route. Sight lines at the intersection of Little Meadow Road are restricted and need improvement to accommodate safe turning at this intersection. This has been a challenging intersection for sight lines for some time, and the majority of the sight line obstructions are on the applicant's property. It would be beneficial to this project and the town in general if this was addressed by the applicant. Some brush and tree removal may be necessary to make this intersection safer. The engineer should show the areas needing clearing to achieve improved sight lines. The alternative is to utilize the existing driveway onto Little Meadow Road or build a new driveway onto Little Meadow Road for construction access.
Would you?
Yep.
Mr. Anderson or Attorney Beatty, have you discussed with your client, Janice's request about clearing some brush on that little?
If
Prospect Hill?
I may, I don't think Janice has been to that intersection recently because my client has cleared all of the brush in, I think, about 6 months ago. He cleared all the brush on his property to improve the sight line looking north. The sight line looking south is extremely limited. So for her to say that most of the sight line is on my client's property makes me think that she hasn't been there in a while. I was just up through there yesterday just to take another look before the meeting to refresh my memory of the property. And looking to the north, the sight line is not bad at all, but looking to the south, it is impossible. You have to pull way out into the road just to make sure you're not going to get hit by somebody coming north. Now, as far as where the trucks will be coming out of the property and where they're going to go, I don't know. My client hasn't hired a company yet for doing the excavation. But if I had to guess, all of those trucks will be going down Prospect Hill to Route 77. That 8 to 10% grade that she is speaking of happens right after the stop sign at High Meadow Road. So those trucks will be doing 0 mile per hour when they hit that steep grade. I don't see that as a problem with access of a triaxle getting out to Route 77. And more than likely, that will be the preferred route for any trucks for moving the soil. I can't imagine that they're going to be bringing that soil anywhere up Little Meadow Road. They're going to want to go down Route 77 to either the highway or go north up towards Durham to deposit the material wherever they're going. I can't imagine that this soil is going to stay extremely local. So I think that is the reply to that.
Okay. Jamie, I just had one general question. Is it feels like there's a bit of a disconnect on some of these memos between the town staff and the application. Is there a reason why there's some misunderstandings here?
Perhaps if you could point to something more specific, I could offer some guidance here, but as I did not write the memos,
Okay.
Everyone had the applications that are the materials for the commission.
If there isn't anything specific in your head, then the only thing I could say, then it just makes you wonder, Todd, if there just isn't enough information on your drawings necessarily for the town staff.
Well, I would have loved the opportunity to have spoken with town staff and gotten their comments prior to an hour before the meeting. They have had this application for over a month, and they wait until 1 hour before the meeting for me to read their comments. So more communication from them and a speedier reply of any problems that they may have would be very well appreciated. And I run into this problem with them every single month.
I think we can make a motion to continue to the next meeting. So we have the opportunity for everyone to review this in the fullest capacity possible.
I mean, before I go through that, Phil, I'd like to see if there's anybody in the public that wants to ask a question.
Sorry,
Comment.
just thought I'd jump in.
Yep, no problem. Anything else, Attorney Beatty or Mr. Anderson, from your application before I go?
Well, I would also like to state that we have, I believe, 5 letters in support from neighbors that are happy with what Mr. Kermay is doing and have no problems with them. So maybe those letters could be read into record as well.
Yep.
And as far as deficiencies of the plan, I think I've already spoken as to why that information does not need to be on the plans. And
Sure,
that the
but
plans
there's a
are-
request. There's a request for instance, your plans don't actually show the finish. What's it called? The finished site, not sight lines. The finish.
the finished grade.
Grade.
The
Right.
finished grade is what the grade is now. We cannot change the grade.
Well, no, but you said that you were cutting from the bottom
That
down.
will be in the edge of the pond. The existing grades will run into the pond. We are not changing the grades. There are no proposed grades
Right.
because that grading will happen within the pond.
So the toe of the slope goes right to the pond, is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. Any further questions from commissioners at the time? Any,
Yeah.
Larry
Yes, please.
Zola? Go ahead.
So if you could explain to me a little bit more about how this pond works. So how do you get your 12-foot depth? How's water getting into the pit? And how much will that vary seasonally?
Well, there was a question from the Wetlands Commission as to whether there would be enough water to sustain a pond. So we went out there with a very large excavator and dug a 22-foot deep hole in the ground, and it filled up with water in a matter of 30 seconds. And that hole is still open and still full of water. Even during the drought, that water was only about 1.5 feet deep in that hole. So that pond will be a viable source of water. Even he could pump 40 gallons of water a minute out of that pond and it will still fill up with water.
So
Beautiful sand and gravel, even though it's modeled.
so a
I'm sorry,
22
Phil, what?
a 22-foot deep hole had a foot and a half of water in it.
From
No,
the top.
a 1.5 feet from the top of it.
Oh, okay.
During the drought, 1.5 feet from the top of the ground down to water.
So my concern is I want to make sure that we're not, for better or for worse, robbing water from neighbors' wells. If there's a sufficient water supply in that area, that's my big concern.
Everybody's wells in the neighborhood are dug to a depth of about 160 to 180 feet. Those are from an aquifer. This is groundwater, which is totally separate from aquifer water. Between the groundwater and aquifer water, there is going to be several ledge layers that separate groundwater from aquifer water. By pulling groundwater, we are not affecting any wells in the neighborhood. So there was that question before with the Wetlands Commission, and no, that it's two separate animals.
Kevin Clark, I think you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So first question is, what are your intended hours of operation during this whole thing? Just so the
Normal hours as allowed by the current zoning regulations, pretty much 8 to 4.
8 to 4, okay.
8 to 4 Monday through Friday. It's not going to be a 24-hour operation.
Okay. My second question is more for my own curiosity. It's not really in our purview. It's for Mr. Kermay. This is like my own curiosity here. Since you're not bringing in fill and creating berms in the new orchard for the 1,000 or 1,200 trees, are you anticipating that your trees are going to grow well with wet soil and wetland soil? Fruit trees don't like their feet wet.
Well, Mr. Clark, I'd be happy to answer that question. First, insofar as berming is concerned, as Mr. Anderson indicated earlier in the hearing, to the extent that I need to go back for additional authority before the Inland Wetland Commission for the depositing of additional soil, I will do that. Second, an interesting point of as relates to agriculture, not all trees and or other plants are, effectively all the same. As you use the expression wet feet, some tolerate it better than others. Asian pear trees are one species of deciduous tree that appears to do better with relatively, moist soil. Others, some species of crab apples certainly do okay, and other types of pears. I'm trying to think of the other one that I'm just drawing a blank. But to answer your question, certainly there are some things that would grow without a hitch, including things like blueberries. But to the extent that I need additional authority properly to make a modification, I would seek that properly for the Inland Wetland Commission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Rosolo?
Yeah, again, to demonstrate profound ignorance, because I know nothing about farming. It seems to me if the pond fills easily, and I'm looking at the contour lines, why do you need to irrigate the proposed grove? There should be enough groundwater there.
Okay, because there is more than one place where I plan to irrigate. I have trees that are upland from there, including currently 335 apple trees that are growing in the non-wetland area. Currently, as Todd had mentioned earlier, that is being irrigated by my well water, which I would prefer to irrigate with groundwater if at all possible.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from commissioners?
I think the reason, if Todd, is that you put the driveway to the width it is that it's between some trees. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And normally with tracking pads, it's not so much the length, but how fresh you keep it, I think. Is my
Exactly.
experience.
Exactly.
So if anything, refreshing it does more than anything.
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the audience? We have a pretty limited audience here. All right. Do we have access to those letters, Jamie, that we can put up?
We sure do. I can pull up the first one here.
Sure.
Sorry, I'll try to zoom in a little bit.
That's fine. So this is just for the record for everyone, these are letters that are in support of the application. This one is from, if you would zoom down a little bit, from Rance and Ashley Hillier at 10 Kendall Court in Guilford.
You want these read in, Scott?
Typically, when we have this kind of a volume, we just acknowledge, we put it on the screen so people can't read it. We acknowledge this and where they're from. So thank you, Jamie. Can we go to the next one? All right, this is from Lou and Ellen Pafumi at 46 Dover Court in support of the application.
Oh,
it's fine.
Apologies. Let's try that again.
This is from Bob Stenko.
Bob had both an email that was sent to me as well as a
letter.
And so I can pull up his letter here.
Bob Stenko is at 100 Dover Court in Guilford, Connecticut. Again, in support.
And I believe this is the last one.
Are these neighbors in proximity to the property? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, it's the next town. It's the next road. It's the other side of the property, the next road.
Okay.
It's next door, basically.
Thanks.
Yep.
Although I would point out, Mr. and Mrs. Pafumi are the property immediately to the north of where the proposed pond is.
They're
Yes.
not on. Yeah, they're on Dover Court though, right?
Right, but their
Yes.
property is immediately adjacent to the location of the proposed pond.
Got it.
Right. And
I
we're
note
here, that pond is directly in our backyard, can be seen quite easily, particularly in the winter months, from the back of our house. And I just want to say that we are totally in support of the project. Chuck has done a beautiful job with that property in the 20 years or so that we've lived there. It's never looked so good. And he has a vision for the property, and he, in my many conversations with him, it's evident that he's entirely sensitive to the environmental impacts of whatever he does, and he does things right and with a lot of thought. So,
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anyone else on the call that would like to speak in support of the application?
Scott, I'd just like to note that a lot of the letters say the author can see the pond, can see the property, and one noted how much the intersection of the sight lines of the intersection were greatly improved.
Sure.
So that's already been done.
So
Thanks,
Scott,
Larry.
just for the heck of it, there's no undoing this once you do it, right? Like you can't build a pond and then say, yeah, it didn't work out so good, and then fill it back in, can you?
I mean, technically you could.
I guess, I don't know, I'm just
Jeez.
asking.
Pricey.
Whatever, thanks, sorry.
Is there anyone that would, from the public, that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Attorney Beatty or Mr. Anderson, any final comments for this portion of your application?
No, I just think that, we've attempted at the risk of correcting Mr. Anderson, he may have received it an hour ago, but I received it a little before 5 o'clock, the memos from the town. So that's, I forwarded them as soon as I was able to around 5:30 this evening. But I think we've attempted to address all the concerns raised in the memos by Mr. McGee, Ms. Plasiak. There weren't any raised by the health director. We've reached out to the neighbors to advise them of this hearing. We've gotten letters of support from several of them. It's for an agricultural use, which makes it a use permitted as of right within the wetlands. Mr. Kerme has already demonstrated his desire to use the property in an agricultural way by making plantings of over 300 trees, as he mentioned earlier this evening. And this pond will, allow him to continue that agricultural use of the property in a way that will, benefit his neighbors, the town, and whoever he sells his crops to. So we'd ask that the commission grant the application. I think Mr. Anderson's addressed the engineering issues to show that the site can sustain the pond, and that the pond will help Mr. Kerme be able to wash his dishes and take a shower and feed his trees at the same time. So we ask that it be granted.
Thank you. So to waive the second public hearing on a special application, it requires 3/4, correct, Jamie, of vote?
I'll make a motion to waive the second public hearing.
Or a second?
Second.
Mr. Freeman, discussion?
I think based on my experience that the pond will go in smooth and I think there's plenty of information for it to go in that way. I don't see any reason to show grading lines around a pond when it actually just grades right to the grade that's there. And that doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I think,
Yeah,
Have there been any objection from like abutting neighbors, I might be a little more hesitant, but there doesn't appear to be any. So,
Right.
and matter of fact, it appears to be support. So,
I find it hard to believe that it's not going to disrupt some amount of that slope, but you know, that's kind of nitpicking at the same time. So, anyone else? Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
Larry Rizzolo,
Yes,
and I will also vote yes. Would anyone like to propose a motion to close the public hearing on this item?
I'd like to make a motion propose to close the hearing.
Thank you,
Second.
Phil. Second from, I didn't see it.
Me.
That's from Bill.
All right, Bill. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Affirmative.
Larry Rizzolo,
yes.
and I vote yes. We'll act on this evening. Thank you very much. That is the end of our public hearing items. We'll move on to deliberation of the public hearing items. First item, William and Michelle Gilson, 2 Hart Landing, map 106, lot 18-3, zone R8, special permit application for accessory dwelling apartment. Do we have a motion that someone would like to propose?
You bring it up, I'll read it.
Not prepared. It's right here.
Proposed motion, Gilson 2 Hart Landing approval. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for approximately a 477 square foot detached modular accessory apartment at 2 Hart Landing, map 106, lot 18-3, zone R8. Submitted plans and drawings are as follows: modular building plans, ranch model ON107337, prepared by Modular Building Systems of PA, dated 7/27/22, 34 sheets. Site plan 2 Hart Landing, M106B1018, L03, Guilford, Connecticut, dated July 7th, 2022, revised November 1st, 2022, by Nassif and Young Engineers, Inc., 1 sheet. Property survey 2 Hart Landing, M106B018, L03, Guilford, Connecticut, dated April 1st, 2022, by Nassif and Young Engineers, Inc., 1 sheet. This application is approved with the following conditions. The application shall file with the town clerk an original copy of the special permit to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and shall furnish written evidence of the planning to the Planning and Zoning Department that the document has been recorded prior to the Planning and Zoning sign off of building permits. Prior to sign off on building permits by the zoning enforcement officer, the applicant will provide a revised property survey showing the location of the proposed modular structure. This application is approved based on a finding that it conforms to the Guilford zoning regulation 273-19, apartment accessory to single family dwelling.
Thank you.
Is there anything below there? I don't know.
No, there is not.
Okay. Approval shall become, well, there was a little bit, but
Oh, yeah, effective, sorry. I'll bring it up. You got me there.
this approval shall become effective 15 days after publication of the legal notice of decision upon a filing with the town clerk.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second.
I gotta start looking. You guys are fast.
Ted,
I'll give it to Mr. Ted Sands there. All right, discussion.
Pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
Mr. Phillip, yeah, is that just a positive or you have something to
No,
say?
that's a discussion question. Like,
Sure.
this one's pretty slippery. I mean, we're putting a modular drop in a lot. I mean, I think that
So-
was the original concern originally with accessory dwelling units. Like, how are we gonna like regulate? Are we gonna allow people to just put in, I hate to say it, trailer homes on their properties and call them accessory dwelling units?
But it's actually not a trailer unit.
No, he
Phil.
knows that, but he's talking about this, like, there's no
I mean,
difference
So,
necessarily.
10 years ago, and I'll throw, and Frank, help me out here, because you've been with me longer than I've been with you. You know, it was, you had to have a building that was in place for a certain period of time. And then we modified that, say, okay, it doesn't have to have been an existing building. You can build a new building. But I don't think it was ever contemplated to say you could drop in a modular.
Well, so there's a foundation that's going on. And modular is a building style. like
I hear
building.
you.
No, it's just a way of building. It's not
It's a way
building
of-
style. It's
No,
built
not
somewhere
style.
else.
I know,
I mean,
that's what I meant. It's a way of building. So that term is rough. So, but really, Phil, what you're speaking to is, okay, if we do what we have currently planned on doing, where we just let this become as of right, there's nothing stopping what you just described.
I know. I'm just bringing it up as a discussion point. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not against, I'm totally for accessory dwelling units. Absolutely. I don't want to see, whether it's aesthetics or whatever, someone dropping
Yeah,
modular units on every property.
Jamie, do we
Right.
have a plan to at some point discuss that whole question? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. A couple of simple things I can say is that because an accessory apartment will become as of right, it doesn't mean that the planning and zoning department doesn't have the ability to review building plans, setbacks, height, all these types of things. So it still requires a zoning permit, but that's typically something that is coupled with the building permit.
yeah, but can you specify looks or?
Well, I mean, I think
Or
this
that kind of thing?
foundation piece that you're talking about is an important distinction. Design guidelines, we don't really have those for private dwellings, so I don't see how we could apply them to accessory. But we do need to have a follow-up conversation about this because, there's a couple of other things that we just need to consider, and the seamlessness of making this transition.
Yep.
If I could add on that, I never thought that I would be doing a modular unit, because I'm very particular. I've put a lot of work into my home, especially in the past 2 years. The company that I went through was in Colchester, and when you see their models, you would never in a million years think that these were modular homes. I think when you think modular, you do think a trailer. That's what I thought initially until I visited their place in Colchester. And for what you're getting and the pricing and everything else, it actually is, they've come well along the way. I was able to kind of match the cedar shingles to my house. I was able to match colors. I was able to do a lot. So it's definitely just something to look at, in the
Again,
future.
I think you've probably done a terrific job, but kind of my concern is the applicant that brings forward an application that has not done
Right.
all the work that you've done, but just met the minimum requirements. And
I
that,
understand.
and
For me, it was very, very particular about, I was more concerned about it matching my home and matching everything and matching you know, as far as even down to my interiors, the windows, everything, I wanted it to match. So I didn't, and this company that I found in Colchester, they were able to accommodate all of those things. You know, I took the base of the model of how it was going to be laid out, but I
Right.
changed the windows, I changed the doors, I changed the shingles, I changed everything so that it would match my house. So
It
it's
honestly,
like
it honestly,
little
it's, I think your application's wonderful. I just, I'm looking at it from a bigger perspective.
I
Yeah,
understand.
and Phil, I think a lot of us agree with you that there's something to be discussed there at least.
Okay.
I know it's
Well, I
a
think that.
it's a
I
political
think-
battle in a lot of other places.
I don't
look,
think it's
the-
germane to
the-
this conversation right now to bring in this. I think we need to address this applicant and what she's
No,
proposing.
I'm fully in favor of this application. I think you've done a great job. I just think from a planning and zoning perspective, we need to like take a look at what exactly we're gonna allow.
Got it.
You know, are we gonna allow everyone to?
Well, you know, I think, Phil, that the thing that, the comment that was made that was really important to me was that this house is going to be put on a foundation. And whether the house is built up from the foundation with, you know, 2x4s, or whether it shows up on the lot as a modular, I'm not sure that makes a difference.
I didn't bring up that point, but go, okay.
Thanks. Any other discussion points for this vote? Seeing none, we'll go to Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes,
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes,
Frank D'Andrea,
Yes.
Larry Rizzolo,
Yes,
and I will also vote yes. Good luck on your building. Thanks.
have fun.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's help.
Great. Would anyone like to make a motion concerning Charles Cremay, 316 Little Meadow Road, map 86, lot 2, zone R5, special permit application for earth removal operation section 273-66 of the Guilford zoning regulations. We do not have one for you to read.
Mr. Chair,
So you would offer-
as I did receive those memos at 4 PM today,
Yep.
there is no crafted motion. I would ask that we continue deliberations, and I can craft a motion that is mindful of all of the memos for the November 16th meeting.
Make a motion to continue to November 16th.
Second. Thank you, Kevin. Any discussion?
Can we put this on the first item on the agenda for?
There should not be, I think the plan, Jamie, is for there not to be actually a public hearing at all.
No, there is. We have we have accessory apartment. I tried. But, you know, it's not an easy thing to tell someone, no, you gotta wait, 6 weeks. So, we do have a conversion to an accessory apartment before us on the 16th.
Okay.
and just a question, Jamie. You mentioned the motion taking into account the letters, but do you also take into account the applicant's rebuttal
Yes.
to those and explanations?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and-
Yeah,
and
I
do you
mean,
need-
so
and do you
for
need to go back?
example-
Do you need to go back to McGee and Jennifer and whoever to
No,
say this was his argument, and what do you think about that?
those
No,
are
'cause-
advisory memos.
I see.
So,
I have a question. Why are we postponing this? If
Because we don't have motions.
if you'd like
Can't-
to.
We want to free range it? We can
Can.
free range
it's
it.
not that complicated, is it?
Uh,
I mean, I don't know all the words at the end there. We could pull them up, but I just hate to delay because of the fact that we didn't have something to even work with, and now we make the applicant wait another 2 weeks.
I hate to make Jeff wait, but I would rather do this right once than free range it and not get it right. That's me.
I
Scott,
don't think there's
you're
any
the
harm
chair.
waiting 2 weeks to dot the i's and cross the t's. It's 2 weeks.
Well, are they, Barry?
Jeff, what do you think?
I understand completely.
Well spoken,
Yes.
counselor.
Nicely done. Well played.
There's the motion on the table, with a second. Kevin Clark, yea or nay to continue?
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Stans,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
With sincere apologies, counselor, I mean, I wish we could have done this, but we want to do it right once.
We understand. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll move on to, we don't have any pending or new applications. Other commission business approval of minutes. Was anyone able to review our minutes from last meeting?
I was
Substantially
able-
correct.
I will second that.
So would anyone like to make a motion then?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, please.
From Bill.
Second, Bill. Sorry.
Thank you. All in favor? Show of hands.
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right, passed unanimously. And next item, review of Ben Knoll proposed lot 5 and 6 buffer planting plan.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's
Great,
not on
thank
there.
you. So I will
got it.
attempt through my email. Oh, you got it? Great, thanks, Scott. Terrific. So I was actually, for commissioners who have not been with us for too long, the Benton's Knoll is a development off of Sachem's Head Road, or maybe Colonial Road, I guess. Planned residential development that has been going on for about 10 years, 10, 11 years. There have been a series of changes over time, and there were some challenges for an abutting property owner, this residence right here. And throughout the years, there were attempts to mitigate some of those. Thanks, Scott. I was doing my own cursor, but realized it's yours. And I think, you know, this sort of existing tree line that you see here against the stone wall showing kind of like a sunburst. Yep. Those were trees that were put in place to control some stormwater issues. And there was also that dotted blue line is a trench that was dug to mitigate some stormwater flow. And really where about maybe, 8 months ago, when I became town planner, I picked this up as a project that, you know, I really wanted to see come to fruition because it's been a long time in the making. So working with the abutting property owners as well as the new owner of Unit 6, which is at the top left of the drawing, and the current owner of Unit 5, working to devise this landscape plan, which would provide basically a natural screening between the abutting property owner and the new property owners. And so what we've arrived at here, if you focus on Unit 5, there will be 6 giant arborvitaes along the driveway. This is slightly elevated actually from where that trench is and where the existing pines are. And the remedy here is that the giant arborvitaes will mitigate headlights that the property owner, when they pull into their driveway, that shows in the abutting property owner's home. So that's the mitigation there. Also keeping in the Lot 5 or Unit 5's backyard, there will be 3 great white pines, and those are sort of off to the right of thank you, that will be planted there. That's right on the edge of the conservation easement. And that provides privacy screening to the backyard of Unit 5, as well as to the abutting property. Now, if we go to Unit 6, so there's a very large, I'll call it grade change or height change, I guess, between Unit 6 and the abutting property owners. The area where the stone wall is and that area between, yes, thank you, Scott, the area between there from where the proposed plantings are to the stone wall is, I refer to it as a gully. It's kind of a depression. That's part of the existing conservation easement that was agreed to with the development. As the developer has worked to tier kind of the slope up to Unit 6, he has created a plateau in about the middle of the grade. I mean, I don't have an exact number for you, but I would say that that plateau is about 10 feet above where the stone wall is. So it tries to establish through the planting, again, they're about 5 feet tall right now, white pines that will grow significantly, and there will be 12 of them kind of scattered, off center, scattered from the corner of the new unit all the way up to about the corner of the stone wall.
I would say that the white pine, Bill could probably confirm this, those grow significantly. They can grow 3 to 4 feet per year. Those are big trees,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, I think it'll create a great screening for the Comans in their
Yeah,
property,
so-
and hopefully suck up a lot of the water that was the concern originally.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so the plans are there, they're on site. The Comans have reviewed the plan. The developer has reviewed the plan. The owner of Unit 5 has reviewed the plan. We are a go. There was a commitment to get these plants in the ground prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for Unit 6. And also, to get them in the ground while it's still prime planting season. So, one more caveat here is that the development itself still has a final planting plan and a landscape plan. In order to meet the town's commitments to the abutting property owner, we kind of removed these Lot 5 and Lot 6 buffer plantings from the larger landscape plan and worked to just move that forward and get it in the ground. The development's full landscape plan will most likely come before the commission for revisions in the spring of next year.
I'd also note, there's a note there that if the tree dies within a year, they'll replace it.
Thanks, Scott. Yep.
Yeah, no, this has been obviously, I was contacted by the abutting neighbors several times, and it was never an easy conversation, and I'm happy that things are moving in a positive direction.
Thanks, Jamie.
So
Thank you,
Jamie,
Jamie.
this phase 2 of the planting plan?
Phase 32.
I don't know what phase it is, but this development's been going on for 10 plus years.
No, I know. I'm curious. So was the use of native plants stipulated from the get-go? Does anybody remember that? And the reason I ask is because I noticed on phase 1 trees planted, there's actually 3 species of trees there that are actually not native. So I was just I don't know, I kind of noticed it, and I guess if there's more planting plan coming before us in the future, something to keep an eye out for, that's all.
Yeah, I don't think this, so yeah, we have gone through several iterations in the past 8 months. And I think the legend, this just kind of carries over because none of on the original planting plan for the Lot 5 and Lot 6 unit buffers, there were these, but working together with all parties, we were going for height, we were going for screening, We were going for density and quick growth, so.
I think
we-
that- I think part of the problem might have been like, when this was originally developed, I'm gonna say 10 to 12 years ago. There was more inclination for, let's get this done, than let's look at all the absolute details.
Right, right.
Well, there was certainly less talk about invasive versus indigenous.
So,
How many more units are left in there, Jamie, do you know?
So,
many.
Unit 6 will hopefully get its certificate of occupancy the end of this year. And there's one more lot that is yet to be built upon. It's under contract.
Great,
And they're drawing up the plans now.
excellent.
Mhm.
thank you, Jamie.
Yep, you're welcome.
But we don't need to act on this. You're just giving us some information, correct?
Just giving you an update.
Super,
Great.
thank you.
Anything else, Jamie, that we need to discuss, or you need to have announcements at all for us?
So Nigel and I have a power session, basically half a day with Glenn Shalder on Friday, to try to take much of the feedback that we've received from the Economic Development Commission, the Housing Committee, the Information Sessions, the Agricultural Commission, you name them, all of the feedback that we've received, trying to get that into a revised working draft of the regs. So, the plan for Friday is really to kind of get everything together, divide the labor, execute, and see if we can't get some revised regs out to the public prior to that November power users session, which is the 4th.
Nigel, you drinking from the fire hose or what?
Come again?
Drinking from the fire hose.
It means you got a lot on your
I've
plate.
not heard that
This
one.
means-
I've never heard that before either.
All right.
That means like, you've got so much coming down your plate that you can barely handle it.
Oh, it feels like it sometimes, but I guess that's why I was hired, so,
All right, well, never feel like you can't ask for help, okay?
right,
Well,
I appreciate it.
A lot of people around that have a lot of experience. Look at Frank, he's been around forever.
I mean, just look at him. I mean, that's indication enough.
So.
Thanks, Phil.
And all here to
Love you,
help.
buddy.
All right, that's about it. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Sands. Second from
Bill
Ms.
Freeman.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, we got one opposed.
Ha,
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Have a good
thank
2 weeks.
you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Phil just doesn't want everybody to
I'm gonna
leave.
revise
Phil,
my vote.
You just want to stay here forever, Phil?
Good night.